to this different type of episode of On the Peg. Normally I'm just here reviewing toys, mostly the DC Multiverse. Love my DC Multiverse. But anyone who's known me for a long time, or if you were a subscriber to my older channel, which is still around, called the Mad Montreal Man, I did comic book reviews, movie reviews, and occasionally I would post something up that was basically me talking about what I did for a hobby. Now, if you don't know, ages ago, I used to work at a comic book store. And we had a lot of wonderful artists who lived in Montreal. That's where I was, who also would come by the store. And long story short, they got me into designing characters. Yeah. And ever since then, I've designed tons and tons of characters. I've even had a few, published with DC Comics. So, because of that, apart from doing my own characters, which I have a lot of characters, I've designed so many characters for my own universe, and I created a Facebook page. One was called Paradox Concepts, which was featuring some of my original ideas, but I kind of stopped putting stuff there because I just kept on drawing more. And I also had one called, Comic Book Concepts. Both of those pages still exist, but they're kind of like a sub-page of the newest page I did a couple years ago called the CDC, Canadian Define Comics. It's basically a place where I am going to be eventually putting more of my own designs out there. Now, I've put a little bit on those pages just as teasers, because I'm not a comic book artist. Never will claim to be a comic book artist. Nor will I ever claim to be a comic book writer. I am a poet. I write poetry. I have, however, did say that I am a person of the 3 C's. Concept, character, and costume. That's what I focused on. I come up with a concept, I come up with a character, and I do all the costume. But to do all that, one of the things I've done a lot is a lot of research. A lot of research. I used to be considered a bit of a comic book historian for quite a long time. I'm out of touch with comic books for the past 7 years, so I can't say that anymore. However, there were things happening at DC Comics way before this New 52 that kind of pushed me away from just doing my own characters. Because my goal was eventually to have my characters part of the DC Universe. Yes. But they did a couple of things that I figured I can do that better, and I did research. A good example would be I did a video about my concept for bringing back Barry Allen. I'll put the link in the description as well, and I'll put a couple other links, like, for example, one of the ideas I had for a Superman story where his parents come back. It's kind of funny that 12 years later, they actually did come back, sort of. Yeah. But I had all these wonderful ideas, so I drew a lot of comic book characters based on that. I even had concepts to bring back dead characters in a different way. Like, for example, I have a concept, which I haven't done a video for, that would bring back the Monarch and explain the Monarch. If you don't know who the Monarch is, it's one of the coolest DC characters they ever came up with, and then they ruined it, sort of. But one of the things I was doing while I was doing all this research, I was, of course, going through the history of DC Comics. That included looking at Superman's history, or the history of Krypton. And there was a lot of things about that I thought were interesting, and always in the back of my mind, there was this little seed of what if, or can you imagine a universe where that one thing didn't happen, what would have happened? So I basically had that in my head for years. I've also had some other designs, but I'll give you an idea, for example, okay? This is what I normally do. I will come up with an idea. I will draw it. Basically, I will draw the idea. I'm not going to go in detail, but I'll basically come up with a costume design, and that's pretty much where I normally leave it. Because I said, I'm not a comic book artist. I can't draw. I mean, my drawing skills have gotten better over the years, but I'm never going to be a comic book artist. But for example, when that story I had for bringing back Superman's parents, it was a story idea I called The Gift. It involved Green Lanterns and the Phantom Zone. It basically involved a lot of the history of Krypton, including the history of Daxam. So, for example, there's one of the designs I did for that. You know, it's just basically me having fun designing characters. Now, I kind of put the whole Superman Krypton idea on hold for the past couple of years. Apart from working and other things, I was like, okay, I was sort of challenged by a friend of mine to, basically come up with designs of the Golden Age DC characters if they were in Canada instead. Because we all know Superman was created in Canada. He's Canadian after all. Fortress of Solitude would be in the Canadian North Pole. This is all pre-New 52. And I started designing characters, based on that. And it went from designing, the Holy Trinity of DC to designing, well, and I'm still not done yet. I decided to look at as many Golden Age DC characters as possible and reimagine them as Canadian in that time frame. And of course, that involved doing research into, say, for example, Montreal. Montreal would definitely be Gotham City. It also involved, doing other research and so forth into like Canadian culture. So it's been a long project. It's not just me drawing a design and going, here you go. No, I actually do my research. I want to have some background based on facts for these characters. And of course, if you're going to do the Golden Age, I started doing the 50s as well. So yeah, the project of me redefining the DC characters, Golden Age upwards as Canadian, is ongoing. But because I'm not working lately, and I've been, tweeting with the idea of designing some stuff again, and I did start this design a while ago, but I put it on hold. I was like, not happy with it. It was just too much of a simple repaint. But after I reviewed this guy here, see? And by the way, I am going to be doing a evil John Stewart Green Lantern with this as the base, but that's going to wait for now. But I figured, okay, I'm going to pick up that one action figure I started a while ago, and let's see if I can finish it and make me happy with it. Because I did custom paints on Marvel Legends so long ago, and I haven't done any since. But I figured, okay, I'm going to finish this repaint of a DC Multiverse. Then I realized I need to add something to it, and I need to do stuff. But to get to the character of the Kryptonian, I wanted to also look back at how would I explain him. So what I did was I went back on all my notes and stuff, and I found, there's this one point in Krypton's history where they basically went from being a space exploring culture to having colonies, and that ties in with Daxam, because Daxam to me is a colony of Krypton, and there's a lot of evidence to support that. And it also ties into my other concept of, the gift, which involved Superman and Daxam and all that other stuff. But I was like, what if in this alternate universe, Krypton didn't go from being a space exploration society that stopped going to space to instead continuing to go to space, and the religious aspect of Krypton died away. So they became science focused. So once I did that, it started unraveling everything I needed to do to explain this character. So in this new universe, Krypton keeps on doing science. Daxam being a colony of Krypton is also something that I looked at, because I did, just for a quick little custom, come up with another character that would tie in with the Kryptonian. So what happens in this case, because they're so science focused, Krypton never explodes. No, Krypton is saved. It is still out there. It's still there. It's still a center of science and space exploration, and not an evil, by the way, empire, even though in their past, which I'll talk about a little bit, there was a period of war with another colony. But then I figured, okay, they're a science, culture, they're expanding. they're eventually going to come to Earth. Now, being a science culture, they're going to come to Earth, of course, but they're not going to, look at humans as, an advanced species. We are primitive compared to them. So, for example, we have hair, we have beards, we have all these things that sort of like, from a scientific standpoint, don't make much sense. So that was the backstory of the Kryptonian. So the Kryptonian, as you can see, is bald. Black suit, white, Kryptonian symbols, sort of. And, just a really cool figure. I will include a close-up. Don't worry. I'll tell you what, I'll put the close-up in right now. This is where we edit and put the close-ups in. Alright, so it's not much of a custom, really. It's a really simple custom. It's a repaint. If you don't recognize it, it's a Superman body. It's the Superman, black recovery suit. I repainted it. Then I added this wonderful thing with the cape. And I did a head swap. It was a simple custom. And I want to do simple customs because I want everyone out there just to start doing customs if they want. And it's not that hard to do. Yeah, the paint takes time because you want to figure out where you're going to put the paint. And I really could have just originally drawn this. I could have just done a drawing of what I wanted this character to look like. But then I realized, you know what? I'm going to have some fun. I'm actually going to just customize the actual action figure. And that's what I did. But like I said, I put it aside for a while. I wasn't happy with it. But then once I added this and I did the head swap, I was like, done. I finished the paint on him that I wanted to do. And I have the wonderful backstory for him as well. So, as I was saying, in this other universe, Krypton never explodes. The Kryptonian, whose last name is L. Yep. This is Kal-El, son of the great scientist Jor-El. He decides to come to Earth, visit Earth, right? Because it's mentioned in one of their old archives, of this planet. And he's more of a, how can I put it this way? He's a scientist, but he's not like into science as much. He's a bit of a rebel because he's more into the histories and so forth. So that's why he figured, okay, I'm going to go explore. I'm going to go look for new things. So he comes to Earth based on this mention of it in an really old document they have. So he comes to Earth, of course. On Earth, yellow sun, we know the story. He becomes supercharged. He becomes extremely powerful. But when he first comes to Earth, of course, he's not fitting in because, first of all, doesn't understand the language. So he has to learn the language and languages. He's also kind of like disgusted by the pollution, the wars, everything just kind of throws him off. So he's kind of like very angry at what he finds here. Eventually he becomes a good guy, don't worry. So once I got that point, I was like, well, I have this whole other universe now. And I have this wonderful history with Daxam and Krypton. And I figured, how can I tie that all in? How can I sort of bring this character into that universe? Then I realized, well, if I go back to my concept of Daxam being a colony of Krypton, which a lot of people would say, yes, it is, you sort of have to try to figure out why are Daxamites, weak, composed, when they're exposed to lead, they get weak and it could kill them. then it just makes sense. As scientists, and you go back to the Krypton histories, Kryptonians had incubation chambers for their babies. They didn't basically, do it the old-fashioned way. Daxamites eventually would have had the same thing. But because, say, a different planet has different materials and different minerals, especially if the incubation chambers were slightly defective, they would not be able to make them immune to a mineral that's rare on that planet. Therefore, Daxamites developed this rare weakness to lead. Okay? It makes sense when you really think about it. And in the past, Daxam decided, we don't want to be a colony anymore. We want to be independent. We want to break free of, the government of Krypton, or the Kryptonian Alliance Empire. So they basically told the Krypton government, F you. Of course, that resulted in a war. Now, because Kryptonians didn't want to, physically kill people, one of their scientists, and I won't mention the name, but I do have a name in mind, decided to, we'll just make them sick. We'll force them to come back and to be with us. So this scientist discovered that Daxamites get sick and could possibly die from lead exposure. So apart from a lot of physical fights and so forth, this scientist or evil general decides to, I'm going to just bombard the planet with a gas full of lead particles. And of course, the Daxamites start getting sick. The Daxamite government surrenders, but now they can't stay on that planet because there's lead everywhere. They have to leave that planet to come back to a Krypton or another planet. So that's what they start doing. And this one family, who's also named L, okay, they get on a ship, but there's a Daxamite loyal terrorist. I mean, she's a terrorist. She doesn't want to go back to Krypton at all. She decides to basically sabotage the ship, blowing it up. So as the ship's falling apart, this family, a father, mother, son, and daughter, hop into an escape pod, and they just manage to get away just in time. Of course, the explosion of this starship blowing up throws them way off course, so the hibernation stuff kicks in. Oh yeah, this is where it gets fun. This is how my brain works. Okay? So eventually, that capsule lands on Earth, say, in, the 1980s. We'll say whatever. But they don't land in the States. They land in sort of like farmland of Ontario. And they're met by, a couple. Now, when I say rural farmland, I'm talking like a farm that's up by one of the lakes, because Ontario has a lot of lakes. And there's a couple there. Okay? Now, the couple's name, just for the sake of it being DC, I figured, okay, well, we have to have a Kent family, right? So the man, his name is James John Kent. His newest wife, they've been married for a couple of years, is Elizabeth Martha Kent. Okay? Now, this James John is actually the son of a farmer from the States who basically moved to Canada because he's a scientist. He is an environmental bioengineer, and he's studying the lakes, ground, and plants to see if he can come up with a farm product that could be done by lakes. His wife is an astrophysicist. So basically, they see this crash, they go to it, they open up this thing, and here's this, family. Father, mother, son, and baby, like a baby girl. So they help him out, but they soon discover that, the parents are dying, and they can't figure out why. Then they realize, okay, parents are dying, so the parents ask the Kents to raise their children. Aha! So they do. And the Kents raise their children. Apparently, the boy is about 2.5, 3. Like I said, the baby girl is a baby. But because they're living up in this rural area of like farm and lakes, they don't get exposed to lead. Because, the Kents discover, okay, we can't have any lead around because that makes the kids sick. So as the kids get older, they get educated by these parents. Of course, the parents file them as, okay, we were up in the boonies, we had these babies. The government says, okay, fine. And as the son gets older, he wants to go out in the world, so he comes up with a way of protecting himself from the lead. Basically, he uses what Kryptonian science he can to basically build a suit that helps him, prevent, the lead from affecting him. It also keeps his powers in check because he doesn't want to become this super powerful guy. He's trying to keep him in check. The baby girl, because there was less time being on Daxamite, she's less ill when exposed to lead. So that's a design for later. I have something in mind. I just need to find a Flash Supergirl body and a certain head that I'm trying to track down. It'll be a head swap and a bit of a repaint. But this other character, whose name is Mon, last name is L, you see where I'm going with this, basically becomes this New Earth's Superman. Now, this was just a head swap. I'll be honest, it was a head swap. That's all it was. But it just looked so good. And I figured, well, in some ways, Kal-El is a distant cousin of Mon-El. Mon-El, of course, is from a period when of war. So eventually these two meet. Ha-ha! And of course, Mon-El, this New Earth Superman wearing his suit, which is really just to kind of keep him from losing control of his powers. And also, people think, okay, it's a super suit. It's not really the guy, but it's also to protect him against lead. Even though by now he's pretty much built up a pretty good immunity to lead. It doesn't really bug him that much anymore. He doesn't really need the suit. So, for example, when he's walking around not in the suit, he's still okay. He just basically can't ingest lead. So, of course, in my brain, these two eventually fight, they meet, and they realize, hey, Kal-El, you are from the same family line as I am, and in fact, it's the same genetic coding used in the incubators for both of them. So the whole point is that, Mon-El really doesn't want to be doing the superhero stuff all the time. So eventually, the Kryptonian will eventually adopt the mantle of Superman. Eventually. But for now, the Kryptonian is still the Kryptonian. And he's very proud of that heritage and so forth. Now, the goal is I need to find another head to do another head swap and another body, because I do have a redesign in mind to turn the Kryptonian into a Superman without the armor. But that'll come down the road. But that's it. That was basically just me, having a bit of fun with doing a physical concept instead of just me drawing it. I hope you like it. And if you're wondering why I don't work for DC, I don't know. I should. I think I mentioned in some of my videos before that, I have these ideas for DC, but it's hard to make those contacts. And also, I did kind of get burnt by DC when it came to a few other characters. So, but now, if Warner Brothers said to me, hey, we want you to come, let's do these ideas, I have artists in mind I'd love to work with, and I would love to see these ideas go from my brain and fleshed out. I think we could bring back a DC Comics that would make all the old collectors like me super happy. And that's sort of my DC, classics concept, which I'll put the link in the description as well. Of course, I've changed the amount of time now. But it'll also bring a lot of new fans to DC, because it's not going to be, okay, we're just going to bring back the old characters. No, time does happen in the universe. Because for people like me who read DC Comics, the crisis was like, finally, we have characters now that are aging, they're developing. Then they ruined it. But that's a long story short. I hope you like, by the way, the Kryptonian. It was not my hardest repaint ever. I did some Marvel Legends that took me quite some time to repaint. I still have them somewhere. and Mon-El was it was a head swap. But no, thank you. I hope you like it. I'll put a last little closing shot of the L cousins together. And if you have spare parts, by the way, if you have spare DC Multiverse heads or bodies, let me know. I would love to get them, because they're essential when you're doing these kind of customs. And I don't have a group here of other customizers, really. Same thing, too. I'm oddly enough trying to find a Flash Supergirl, because I know I can buy the other one for full price, but I don't, GameStop had them on clearance for $10. I should have bought some, but I didn't think about it. But I definitely want to do some more customs like this. And eventually I will get into some more elaborate customs. I have things in mind. But I hope you liked the first custom episode. Shout out to all my subscribers out there who basically put up with this now 25-minute video. And it's not a toy reveal. It's just me having fun with a really simple, basic customizing. But the customizing is what leads to these wonderful stories. And eventually I will finish my... one day I'll finish this project of DC characters Golden Age. And if you want to see more of these pictures that I put up of the some of my designs, you're going to have to go to the page links. I'll put those in the description as well. And on that note, thank you for watching this interesting video. If you know people at DC or Warner Brothers, send them this video. It's about time they get somebody who sort of knows the history of comic books back into the industry, especially for them to say, hey, you guys did this way back when. This made sense. Let's fix things. And I got more. I got so many concepts for DC Comics. It's not funny. I did the same thing for Marvel, but Marvel, Disney, I want to be a Disney guy. Not. I'm definitely a DC guy. And I would love to see some of my wonderful, crazy ideas. Like, for example, Lara, character from the Gift storyline. I'd love to see these characters brought to light. It'd be fun. But on that note, please, as ever, please hit like and subscribe. I won't be doing too many of these too often. We are going to get back to just toy reviews. Because, we are a different channel, aren't we? Okay, you've had time to laugh at that one. But no, we'll be back to doing regular toy reviews this week. And next custom I do, I will show you as well. But until then, from the bottom of my scarred, damaged, barely pounding heart, thank you so much for watching and encouraging me to basically sometimes do something a bit different like this. From the dark, deep, depressive recesses of my darkened soul, thank you for watching the show. It's fun. It's fun doing this for you guys. And as ever, check out the stores I list. And if you know a store that you'd like me to mention, put it in there. Let me know. I'll mention it. I don't mind. And to my new subscribers, I've got a few new ones. Thank you for, hey, taking a chance on this channel. And as always, for your mental health alone, stay healthy. And of course, you want to, stay happy. And one way to stay happy is, well, you start by staying positive. And the best way to stay positive, is to have toys. We'll see you next time.